In this bucolic setting, there's a disturbing fight over food.
Here they went into a farmer's freezer and took his own food from his own family that he himself had made.
Government regulations are running up against farmers and families who want their milk untouched.
Is that what raw means?
That's what raw means.
This week, the food fight over raw milk.
In Kentucky, coal is making something of a comeback.
A lot of people think that we're misguided and we believe all in the coal. What we are attached to is the reliability that it supplies right now.
With energy demand soaring and green energy projects sagging, we take a look at the new and necessary economics of fossil fuel.
Gender questions and gender politics have become a flashpoint around the world.
Can you tell us what's going on with the puberty blocker debate?
We've had an explosion post-COVID of the number of young people who have assigned themselves as, transgender.
We head to Europe for a look at the debate and a ban on giving children treatments to make them look like the opposite sex. Welcome to Full Measure. I'm Sharyl Attkisson. Donald Trump campaigned in part on the promise to make America healthy again. That pledge attracted voters engaged in a growing national battle over food. They claim the government is making it hard to buy food that's safer and more nutritious while force-feeding us a diet that's unhealthy and causing chronic diseases. Today we hear both views, starting with the debate over raw milk. Nestled in the gentle hills of Brandywine, Maryland, is P.A. Bowen Farmstead, where owner Sally Murrow sells cheese, eggs, and most importantly for the purposes of this story, raw cow milk.
Is all of the milk that you sell unpasteurized?
That's correct.
Is that what raw means?
That's what raw means.
Today, a debate rages over which is healthier and safer, raw milk or pasteurized milk, and what rights the government has to limit the choices of farmers and consumers.
What is the idea that there's something in the milk that stimulates the immune system in a good way?
It creates the immune system, strengthens the gut wall, kills pathogens. And then in human studies, and these were done in Europe in the last couple of decades, you have less asthma, less respiratory disease, and less fewer allergies in children brought up on raw milk.
The idea of pasteurizing or heating to kill bacteria was patented in 1865 by French scientist Louis Pasteur, first used on beer, then milk.
Scientists discover that cows can spread disease through their milk. Even worse, bad milk is linked with the deadliest disease of the day, tuberculosis. By 1907, scientists know that heating the milk can stop tuberculosis cold. Soon, Pasteur's process is the law of the land.
A flashpoint in the debate can be found in the heart of Pennsylvania dairy country, where a fifth-generation Amish farmer has drawn repeat visits from the food police.
They want to make him an example so they can have complete control of our food supply in America.
Robert Barnes is an attorney speaking on camera for farmer Amos Miller, since the Amish typically decline to be photographed.
Over the last 5 years, either the state or the federal government has at various times raided his farm, searched it, seized food related to it, tried to destroy food related to it that they found, and often tried to shut him down.
When we visited, the state had tagged and ordered destruction of $100,000 worth of raw milk and other food, arguing Amos Miller doesn't have the proper permits. Barnes says the permit requirements are unconstitutional and claims the government has wrongly blamed Miller's products for several illnesses.
The government wants a monopoly on the food supply. They want to use Amos Miller's case to set the legal precedent for a monopoly on food supply. Here they went into a farmer's freezer and took his own food from his own family that he himself had made. That's the precedent they want to set, that they can go into anybody's home at any time, whenever they think there's any food in there, because if they have a complete monopoly on food, that gives them extraordinary power. So you got every kind of wonderful cheese known to man.
More states have been legalizing the sale of raw milk products, responding to growing consumer demand. But here in Maryland, there's still a ban on selling raw milk products for people to eat and drink. As with many such farms, the raw milk sold here is labeled for pet consumption only, avoiding the issue of some regulations. What customers do with the milk is their own business. Has the government, do you feel, gotten more aggressive about warding people off of raw milk?
Well, recently there's been this big push to tell people that raw milk is dangerous, but we have probably 20 million people drinking raw milk in this country who know that that's not true.
Sarah Sorcher has a different view. She's with the Center for Science and the Public Interest, a food watchdog group. They're against a growing push to put raw milk on more of America's grocery shelves.
It's become an issue recently because a number of states are passing laws that open up the market for retail sales of raw milk. But when we're talking about putting it on grocery store shelves, you have consumers who may have no experience with the product being exposed to that risk. And we're going to see more illness, more hospitalization, and potentially more deaths as a result of these policies.
What's potentially in the raw milk and why?
So milk in its raw state contains bacteria that can be harmful. So we have pathogenic E. coli, the same E. coli that caused the Jack in the Box outbreak. It's present in ground beef. That can be found in raw milk. Salmonella, Campylobacter, Brucella.
Do we have any idea how many people are getting sick from raw milk?
When they looked at sort of the amount of raw milk that's being sold versus pasteurized, and they compared that to the outbreak rate, they found that raw milk is 150 times more likely to cause an outbreak than pasteurized milk. So there's certainly a potential to have more illness if the sale is expanded.
Pasteurized milk can be problematic as well, just not as often, you're saying.
Yeah, with pasteurized milk, there can be contamination after the pasteurization occurs. You could still have issues from that, but the scope and scale is really far reduced by the pasteurization process.
Are there risks?
Well, we believe that pasteurized milk is more risky.
Murrow points to the largest milk-related outbreak in American history. It was in 1985 and caused by salmonella in pasteurized milk. A single Illinois processing plant sickened nearly 200,000 people and killed 48. After a widespread outbreak from pasteurized milk cheese in Canada in 2008, a study noted that Europe found bacteria-contaminated cheese was more often linked to pasteurized milk than raw milk. And there are growing fault lines over other food produced on small farms. This Missouri farmer says someone on Facebook reported him to state authorities for selling pickles and beans.
We're getting ready to go into the 4th of July to celebrate our independence and our freedom. 2 days before that, I get a call from the health department that says, no, you can't sell the products you make on your own farm. That's the whole America dream. We buy our own land, we produce our own food, and we can sell our own food. That's what America was built upon. And whoever reported it, you. Buy your canned green beans and your canned pickles. All that had herbicides and pesticides on it. We offer a different solution that doesn't have all those chemicals, doesn't have preservatives. It's all actually organic.
Small food producers ask why the government isn't giving the raw milk treatment to pasteurized milk or other FDA-approved foods after they make people sick. The deadliest known U.S. food outbreak in the past 3.5 decades was in 2011, caused by bacteria in cantaloupes. It killed 33. To name a few examples from this year, fears of listeria bacteria led to a massive recall of 11.7 million pounds of meat, including at hundreds of schools. Also recalls of ice cream and Planters nuts. Listeria in sliced deli meat killed at least 10 people and sent 59 to the hospital. E. coli in walnuts sent 7 to the hospital, and salmonella in cucumbers sickened 449 people. 125 were hospitalized.
This is just boxes and boxes. I mean, again, it's his whole supply. They're trying to bankrupt him.
Small food producers argue the government is tagging their food while giving its stamp of approval to food containing chemicals, metals, preservatives, dyes, and toxins known to cause everything from chronic diseases and cancer to brain and fertility problems.
And these are the same Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture people that tell you sanitary is taking 4 chickens, sticking them in a tiny little cage, letting them eat each other's crap, and then feeding it to you. That's their definition of sanitary.
Amos Miller was ordered to destroy the government-tagged food, but a court has put that on hold and is allowing him to sell to customers out of state. Pennsylvania law only technically prohibits in-state sales of non-permitted food. Murrow is convinced she's part of a movement that will continue to grow and find support.
This is the future. Raw milk is the future. It will mean that we have healthier children, healthier farms, healthier rural economy.
Delaware recently passed a bill to allow sales of raw milk. Meantime, the FDA announced it will soon start testing raw milk for bird flu. When we come back, going back to coal. Summer heat waves, deep winter freezes, and the exponential increase in energy demands from expanding artificial intelligence, all putting a huge stress on our energy supply. Could Kentucky coal be a solution? Lisa Fletcher reports.
This is a coal-fired power plant. It's located in eastern Kentucky and runs on one of the state's most abundant natural resources to provide electricity to some 600,000 homes. But an aggressive new rule by the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, could change that for this plant and some 200 others. They must cut 90% of the carbon dioxide they release into the air by 2032 or shut down. The problem is, America gets about 80% of its total energy from fossil fuels, while renewables provide 13%. Energy producers say the new EPA mandate could lead to critical energy shortages and increased costs for customers. According to Tony Campbell, CEO of the power plant's operator, Eastern Kentucky Power Cooperative, the cost of complying with the EPA could exceed $10 billion, more than double the value of what he says they own.
Our balance sheet's only $3.8 billion, $3.9 billion. Well, how are we going to afford that? Our current average residential member is about a bill of about $157 a month. After we build all this, it's going to be somewhere between $257 and $308 a month. And our end consumers aren't going to be able to afford that.
Renewable sources of energy like wind and sun have inherent issues with cost and reliability. In addition to needing coal or gas to back them up, wind and solar projects aren't being built fast enough to meet energy demands met by the coal plants.
We think we're going to have a reliability problem in the not too distant future.
Campbell says the reliability problem could happen when power needs surge, like during the hottest and coldest months of the year, and green energy alone can't meet the demand. That could lead to power outages.
A lot of people think that we're misguided and we believe all in the coal. We're not attached to coal at the hip. What we are attached to is the reliability that it supplies right now.
How do we make all these other energy sources reliable so people aren't worried about whether the power is going to stay on when there's an energy crunch?
Oh, it's going to take time to prove this out. So here's my hypothesis. Hey, we continue to put more renewables in, and then we throttle our plants back, and then when it gets really cold or really hot in seasons, then we run them harder, run them up to speed. We keep them alive, because if we close them, they're going to be torn down. We closed one 1950s vintage coal plant, and we wanted to keep it alive for 5 years. But we found out after 2 years, it just started falling apart. If you don't use them like anything else, they'll deteriorate quick.
Almost 160,000 coal plants retired in the U.S. between 2000 and 2023. Cheaper forms of energy like natural gas driving many of the decisions. But shutting down too quickly has proven to be difficult in Germany. After an aggressive government plan to close its coal plants, Germany ended up restarting 27 of them in 2022 and 2023 amid an energy crisis. Meanwhile, in the U.S., the retirement of 31 coal-fired plants was recently delayed or reversed by public utility operators and regulators across 13 states to address reliability concerns. That number is expected to grow in the short term if the EPA rule is not withdrawn or overturned.
What does that tell you about the economics of fossil fuel versus green energy?
Well, I can tell you that the economics of green energy are going to be expensive. The people that really believe in it and are pushing us in that direction think it's cheap, and it is cheap, the energy coming out of it. But remember, they only runs when the sun's shining or when the wind's blowing. And then you have to have another plant down there to run when it's not.
For people living in Kentucky, the new EPA rule comes at a cost, according to State Senator Robert Stivers.
We don't have the capacity through renewables, green energy, to keep up with our demands. And if you see the things I see, and there can be disagreement on it, you're creating a secondary adverse impact when you put in like solar panels in areas that are highly productive areas for farming and consuming farmland.
What do you mean by secondary adverse impact?
A secondary potential adverse impact is when you have to go out and put it in a 50-acre flat area. A lot of times that's productive farmland. You take productive farmland out of the inventory, that just puts more pressure on the farmer, the farming community, to be productive with less land. That's where you get into potentially what are the consequences with fossil fuels versus renewables or green energy, and what is the cost. And cost has many connotations.
While the government offers incentives for cleaner emissions, it's taxpayers who end up footing the bill. Since 2011, more than $16 billion in taxpayer money has been made available for research, infrastructure, and additional tax credits in the shift to green energy.
We recognize that the country has to decarbonize. Our only concern at East Kentucky is we think we're moving too far too fast.
One way or another, the EPA predicts that by 2045, the new regulations will likely close most, if not all, of the country's coal plants. For Full Measure, I'm Lisa Fletcher in Maysville, Kentucky.
Coming up on Full Measure, a new front in the transgender culture wars. A flashpoint in the recent election surrounds children who want to live life as the opposite sex, a mental disorder classified as gender dysphoria. Controversy over treatments drove votes toward Donald Trump, and changes are certain to come under his new administration. In Europe, the practice of using puberty blockers and hormones in children also boiled over and led to a recent ban in Great Britain. By one estimate, there are 300,000 people in the U.S. who identify as the opposite sex. That includes a growing number of children. There's heated controversy as some doctors and clinics have promoted expensive and radical treatments, including puberty blockers that aren't FDA approved for gender dysphoria, but are being prescribed in so-called off-label use. According to pharma-supported MedPage, 25 states have restricted treatments, including puberty-blocking medicine and hormones in kids. That's led to a pushback from transgender activists who say it's crucial to the mental health of the children. In Great Britain, the verdict is in for the moment.
Can you tell us what's going on with the puberty blocker debate?
We've had an explosion post-COVID of the number of young people who have assigned themselves as, transgender.
David Cowling is a British political analyst.
And there was one in clinic, the Tavistock in central London, that became the big centre in Britain for such patients. But then whistleblowers came forward and started to condemn them for the way they were operating and the advice they were given. They were closed down in March of this year. And the government got Dr. Hilary Cass, a paediatrician, to review the literature. She did a review and found very shaky evidence for puberty blockers, very shaky evidence for medical procedures. And she said that, you know, in her judgment, looking at all the evidence, that it was far better for kids under 18, young people under 18, to be left alone in the sense of not be given puberty blockers, not be given transformative medical surgeries.
As a result of the review, the UK government concluded there is not enough evidence to support the safety of clinical effectiveness of puberty-suppressing hormones to make the treatment routine at this time. More broadly, the European Academy of Pediatrics agrees. The group says the fundamental question of whether biomedical treatments, including hormone therapy, for gender dysphoria are effective remains contested, and there is no robust empirical evidence that puberty blockers reduce suicidality or suicide rates. When it comes to surgery, the Academy writes, in Europe, unlike the U.S., both radical and more cosmetic transgender surgery seems confined mainly to adults with capacity. Our view as pediatricians is that it is correct to defer irreversible surgery until adulthood.
The people who were in favour of these operations challenged the government in the court, in the High Courts, and the High Court has said that the government is quite entitled to ban puberty blockers, and the new Labour government appears to be going ahead with that ban.
Neil Coyle is a member of Parliament from the left-leaning Labour Party. Labour recently won control of Parliament from Conservatives who originally proposed the ban on puberty blockers.
Yeah, the new Health Secretary has said we will uphold the ban for now.
Do you sense that some medical authorities in the U.S. and the U.K., maybe elsewhere, lurched ahead too fast or too quickly on some of this and is being kind of dialed back?
Yeah, I think there are certain operations and elective surgery, we call it in the UK, that we wouldn't allow children to undergo, and yet there have been these quite extreme interventions and without a fuller, longer-term understanding. And given it is children involved, I think it's right and proper that a deeper depth understanding of the impact is undertaken, and one that looks at all of the support that's necessary for the children involved and the wider family, but the children involved need to have access to all the health care to make appropriate decisions.
The UK is undergoing a wider review on the long-term effects of puberty blockers and other treatments for transgender children, and that's due next year. After a break, what's ahead next week on Full Measure? Coming up next week on Full Measure, I'll be reporting from Poland with U.S. troops taking part in live fire exercises near the Russian border. Do you expect that Russia knows what's going on today?
Absolutely.
The cost and politics of U.S. contributions to NATO next time on Full Measure. See you then. We'll be searching for more stories that hold powers accountable.